Welcome to the first episode in a two-part Legendarium series about the life of Fredegund, who went from a slave girl to Queen of the Franks. In the comments section, please let me know whether you think Fredegund deserves to be remembered as a heroine, a horror, or something in between. Almost nothing is known about Fredegund's early life, save that she had a hard start of it. At the age of 11 or 12, Fredegund left her home and began life as a slave for the Queen of Frankish Neustria, Ottovera. She spent years in her mistress's household, learning the ins and outs of royal politics. Slavery remained a fact of life in the post-Roman world for those defeated in war or beset by misfortune. Slaves like Fredegund traveled in wagon carts, arms bound by jute rope. Given her social graces, it seems probable that Fredegund came from minor royalty defeated in battle and then brought to the Golden Court as a great prize. As the master of the Golden Court, King Chilperic could have forced the slave Fredegund to bed him, but she seemed to seek out his attentions. After Fredegund won Chilperic's affection, she persuaded him to put Ottovera into a convent and then divorce her, though Ottovera gave him 3 sons and assured the Merovingian line would continue for generations. This astonishing feat horrified contemporaries. What else could the slave girl do? They would find out in 567 when King Chilperic married Galswinthe. A great dynastic prize, Galswinthe was the older sister of Brunhild of Metz through her own marriage to Chilperic's brother, King Sigibert of Austrasia. Galswinthe made a journey of 1,000 miles, trailed by wagons piled high with gold and silver coins, bejeweled goblets, furs, and silks. She arrived at the Golden Court in a hall bedecked with banners, thick fur rugs on the floor, and tapestries on the wall. Unfortunately, Fredegund also waited for her. Barely a year into her marriage, Queen Galswinthe caught Chilperic in bed with his favorite slave, Fredegund. The queen became so outraged that she wanted to return home, even if it meant leaving her enormous dowry behind. One morning, soon afterwards, the palace awoke to a horrible scene. Galswinthe had been found dead in her bed by her slaves, strangled in her sleep. King Chilperic did not once address his subjects on the matter of his wife's untimely demise. He made no searches for her assailants, nor did he offer rewards for their capture. He never questioned or punished anyone, not even the guards who had been posted at the door of the royal bedchamber that night. Yet he immediately married Fredegund, who dressed in the brightly dyed linens and jewels she stole from the women who came before her. Fredegund stood at the wedding altar, smiling up at Chilperic. At Frankish wedding feasts, the tables loaded up with loaves of white bread, beef slathered in brown gravy, and carrots and turnips sprinkled with salt. The Franks loved sweetness so much that the kings themselves owned countless beehives which sweetened their bread and cakes. Though they arranged the wedding hastily, Fredegund showed herself bedecked in exotic gems like Baltic amber, Indian garnets, then all the rage among Frankish nobility, and Central Asian lapis lazuli. However, a complication arose because of the unseemly and hasty marriage. King Chilperic had given his previous wife, Galswinthe, a marvelous wedding present, 5 wealthy cities called Bordeaux, Limoges, Cahors, Lascar, and Ceutat. Each belonged to her, their cobblestones and ramparts, their citizens and soldiers, luxurious estates and plentiful game, and best of all, their tax revenues. Now, who should they pass to? Chilperic's father had divided his kingdom between his 3 royal sons, including Chilperic and Sigibert, who had married a queen named Brunhild, the sister of the murdered Galswintha. She urged her husband to take revenge by taking the 5 cities, and this became the pretext for an invasion carried out by Sigibert of Austrasia. He would start with the 5 cities that made up Galswintha's wedding present, but he hoped that he could devour his brother's entire kingdom and then avenge the murder of his wife's sister. By 575, the fighting spread to Chilperic's capital city of Soissons, and Chilperic and his wife had no choice but to flee to Paris. As Sigibert entered Soissons, admiring throngs disgusted with Fredegund and Chilperic carried him through the streets. Frankish warriors beat their shields with the flats of their swords and axes and made the valley ring with their chant, "Sigibert, King of the Franks, long live the king!" Most women would have summoned a priest to hear their final confession. Instead, Fredegund summoned 2 slave boys and ordered them to slip into the gathering that celebrated Sigibert's victory. Many men at the time carried a scarasax, a hunting knife with a single-edged 12-inch blade. Because such knives appeared everywhere, the slave boys could carry them on their belts and still not attract any attention. Fredegund then handed the boys a small vial of poison, likely snake venom, which would be potent but lose its strength fast once they rubbed it onto their knives. The 2 slave boys claimed to be defectors and insisted they had important news for Sigibert of Austrasia. Their youth and lack of armor meant that the king and his bodyguards did not take them seriously, at least until they stabbed him with their poisoned knives. Though both boys died immediately at the hands of furious bodyguards, King Sigibert of Austrasia died soon after. His armies went home, while King Chilperic and Queen Fredegund left their hiding place, took control of Paris, and resumed the work of expanding their kingdom and power. What will happen next to Fredegund we'll find out in Part 2. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.